What's going on, everybody? Josh Engleman for Awesemo.com, and this is my FanDuel single-game breakdown for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New York Giants. So be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all of our other content goes live. Follow me on Twitter, @Josh Engleman, so you can get updates to the sim results as we get closer to lock. I will be posting my updated sim results tonight, somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 p.m., depending on when I finish my dinner. You know, sometimes it's a little earlier. Anyway, let me know in the comments section, who are your favorite options at MVP and at Flex for tonight? Some of the high-level information we've got going. The average fantasy points in the optimal lineup, 94.7. Median salary used, 59,000. This is where it gets crazy. On average, 3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the optimal lineup, just 2 New York Giants. That's the biggest disparity we've seen so far this season. The Bucs are 13-point favorites in New York with a 45-point total. This one's kind of ugly on the surface. Not the only ugly New York game we've seen this weekend, but we're gonna do it again. Now, it's time to dig into the MVPs. First up at MVP, there's only one place that we can really start, $16,500. He is projected for almost 5 points more than anybody else on the slate. It's Tom Brady. He shows up in the optimal lineup 41% of the time. That is massive. I think that's the highest number I've seen this season. No one else is even close. Daniel Jones at 15K shows up 17.5% of the time. Mike Evans is at 12%. Brady is far and away the #1 option at MVP. He's just that much more likely to be the highest overall scorer. And because this is FanDuel and the salaries don't change when you go to the MVP spot, he just looks better and better. Love Brady in the MVP spot. Just pay close attention to the ownership when it comes out. If he gets north of 45, then you want to start backing him off and going a different direction. If you're picking between Jones and Evans, it's Jones, then Evans. After that, it's really difficult. Every other potential MVP that isn't Brady, Jones, and Evans looks almost identical. Ronald Jones, Darius Slayton, Gallman, Miller, Fournette, Gronk, Shepard, Suckup, all these guys are in like the 3 to 5% range. If anybody gets no ownership, take a shot, but all of these guys look more like flyers than positive MVP players. I just can't go that direction all that frequently. It's just too good at the top. Now, as we head to the flex side, we're going to see a lot of likelihood going to the middle tier just because of how frequently Tom Brady is in the optimal. Since you're spending the maximum amount of salary in the MVP, you need to save it elsewhere. And if you want to do that, some of the top options are, and I didn't expect this, but $9,500 Rob Gronkowski shows up in the optimal more frequently than anybody else on the slate, 40.8% of the time. That's a price thing. It's not like his projection is so crazy, but he is cheap enough that he works perfectly with Brady. You clearly get the synergy between the two. I'd be shocked if Rob Gronkowski scored a touchdown that wasn't somewhat associated with Brady, barring injury. But it's not just Gronk. You can go to Leonard Fournette at 36.6%, slightly more expensive than Gronk. You can drop down a little bit, going to Ryan Suckup, 34% of the time in the flex. He's only $8,500. You can pay all the way up to 15K. Daniel Jones, he is the second most likely flex option at 39%, but if you go to Brady and Jones, that's a very expensive combination. You're really going to need to do a little bit of dumpster diving. In terms of other guys you can save money with, Graham Gano at 8K shows up in the optimal 29% of the time. I think that's viable. There's not a lot at the bottom, which is kind of scary because the Giants are just filled with guys at the bottom. Golden Tate at 7,500, have him projected for 5.2 fantasy points, shows up in the optimal about 10% of the time. So we're talking, 2 lineups in a 20 max. If you're playing a 3 max, I think you can get by having 1 Golden Tate lineup. If you want to go any lower than that, Justin Watson at 6K shows up in the optimal about 8% of the time. That's a bit more aggressive than I'd like to go. Everybody else, there's no true salary savings. I don't like anybody at 5,500 or 5K. The lowest that I want to go is Justin Watson, but the literal floor, I think, is Graham Gano in terms of any full value. 28.6% of the time for Graham Gano means you're going to have a sizable chunk in a 150 max. Nobody else is really close if you go anywhere below him. As I say every week, since we don't have ownership yet, it's hard to talk about fades. Best I can do right now, anybody from Ronald Jones down in salary, if they pick up a lot of ownership in the MVP spot, you don't want to be there. They will just simply be overowned. If Tom Brady is anywhere north of 45%, you'll probably want to come in lower, try to allocate a little bit more to Daniel Jones or Mike Evans. If we're talking about guys at the flex spot, Slayton, Gallman, Miller, that's the 11 to 12K range. They all only show up in the optimal lineup about 20% of the time. It's like a third as often as some of the other guys above them in salary and below them in salary. It's just a really tough salary tier if Tom Brady ends up being the MVP. You just can't use that sort of salary in the middle tier as easily without having to go all the way to the bottom, which I don't really like. So I'll be pretty light on Slayton, Gallman, and Miller. If any one of those guys gets fully ignored, that would be nice, but I expect them to be owned more than they should. Alrighty, folks, that will do it. That is my FanDuel single game breakdown for Monday Night Football's Tampa Bay Buccaneers New York Giants game, which should be quite the barn burner. Ugh. Anyway, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman so you can get the updates later tonight. Let me know in the comments who are your favorite options at MVP and at Flex. And check out the DraftKings video, which may or may not have a link somewhere around here, so you could watch both sites' content because it's different on either site. Although, spoiler alert, if you haven't clicked the DraftKings video yet, I like Tom Brady there as well. Good luck tonight, everybody. Check me out on Twitter. I'm hoping to win some money. I hope you do too. I'll see you guys again for this type of video Thursday morning.